Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. We are going to be painting these adorable mushrooms. I free sketched this out, but I will include the image in the description so you don't have to sketch it if you don't want to, and then you can just trace it. But I am sketching, so if you want to sketch, go ahead and sketch along with me. I did this video a year ago. A little less than a year ago. I have my Christmas nails on. That's how I know. It's been sitting in my files, and it only took about half a dozen people asking me, "When are you posting the mushrooms?" Because I did this as a sip and paint, and it was very much loved. So better late than never, right? I mean, it works this year. We can just pretend this is for this year's. And I just look like I'm way ahead with my Christmas nails. We'll pretend it's not a year old. Ignore my chapstick over there in the left-hand corner. I don't know why I left that in the screen. So I'm just doing a light trace of the mushroom caps. I'm not going to do the all the details. I know a lot of watercolorists really go into details. I see some of the sketches they do, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even want to paint over that because it looks so pretty just with the sketching. Okay, so mushroom caps. Finally get to paint. I am doing wet on wet here. I'm going to do one mushroom cap at a time. And I suggest mixing your colors up. I was really going for more of the earthy tones. Use whatever paints that you have. I'm doing like yellows and mustards and oranges and maroons. I'm going for more of the earthy colors, and I'm just letting the wet on wet kind of drive what happens with the colors of the mushrooms. I think that's what really adds to the charm. Don't overthink it. Don't overmix it. This is easily where you can mix it together here so much that it just becomes one color, and then you kind of lose that little whimsical watercolor effect. The other mushroom I'm doing in like I believe I'm using like a sepia here, but the sepia is very, very, very watered down, so it's like a very light brown. Like I said, I'm going for earthy tones. When I taught this class, somebody did like the bright purples and pinks, and it looked really, really pretty. A little psychedelic, but it was really pretty. I'm definitely more of an earth tone girl in general, which I know is weird for an artist to have earth tones as their favorite colors. Maybe it's because there's so much color in my life with the paints and stuff that I don't need a bunch of color. Or it's just a phase. What about you guys? Do you have colors that you tend to be drawn towards? You know what color I'm not usually ever drawn towards is purples, and I know a lot of people that's the color they're primarily drawn towards. I wonder if there's like a psychology behind that. I definitely like more of the warmer tones. I like the oranges, reds, greens, earthy. Yes, I'm an earth sign, so maybe that's it. Maybe that can explain it. Um, I don't know. I love the earth tones. Okay, I've said that enough. So now we're going on to this. The last mushroom has these cute little white spots on it, so I'm using the white of the paper to create those white spots. You can certainly do a bleed proof white, or you could do the completely blanking on the name right now, so I had to pause the video so I could find out what the name was because I could not remember, and then it became a bubbling full, so you guys didn't have to listen to all that. I stopped the video and erased part of it. But masking fluid, you can use masking fluid for the white dots. You can use bleed proof white, or you could do what I'm doing, and that's just avoid the area altogether. It depends on the painting. I really try to use the white of the paper as much as I can. I think it just looks better when you can use the white of the paper. There's times where you just really, really can't do that. As time goes on, as I become more skilled with the paintbrush, I'm able to do this more and more, where I can use the white of the paper. So if you're at the beginning of your watercolor journey and you're just like, this is really a struggle, don't worry about it. It is one of those things that comes with time. So if you feel better using bleed proof white or masking fluid, then do that, because ultimately you want to be able to make the painting reach the point you want it to reach. And sometimes you need a little bit of help doing that. and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Anyways, we are going into these fall colors. I don't know what the weather is like where you're at. The weather has definitely cooled down here in northern New England. It is getting there. It is still warm, and warm as in not quite sweater weather yet, but it is gorgeous. The leaves are still green, 98% green. There's some leaves starting to change color. We had a super dry summer, so the forecast is that it's not going to be a very vibrant color season for us, which is all the more reason to be painting these bright colored orange and red mushrooms. So can't have it in real life, we can have it here. But I'm so excited. Fall, autumn is my absolute favorite time of the year for so many reasons. It's because living 40 years plus in warm weather climates, fall was just when it started to be a relief for me. Like, okay, I'm finally cooling down. I am not somebody that does well in hot weather. And considering I lived in a hot climate for over 40 years, you would think that I would be, but I'm not. I am not anything over 80 degrees, and I'm just hot. Anything over 70 degrees, I'm like, yeah, that's not great. It's like 50 to 70 is where I'm happy, and that's fall. Besides the fact that, it's just kids go back to school. It almost feels more like the beginning of the year versus January to me. Fall is more of like the reset. Like we're starting over, everything's going back, kids are back in school, we're getting ready for the holidays. And then winter for me is just the peace and the quiet, which I love and crave so much. So fall going by winter, those two seasons together is just makes me happy. So I'm excited. I'm so excited to be doing fall stuff with you guys, and so much so that I forgot to show you what I'm doing here. So we finished up the mushroom caps and the stems. The stems was just like a really, really washed down beige, which was wet on dry. I added some water down at the bottom to create this wet, semi-wet on wet technique. So there's a big blob of water underneath the stems, and then the leaves that I'm drawing or painting, I'm doing as wet on dry. But then as you see, when I reach the bottom there, it bleeds into the water, which I think is everything with this technique. So this part is super important. So as you can see, this part is dry, meaning wet on dry. So the paint's wet, but the paper is dry. And then at the very bottom, it's wet. And it just creates this really, really cool, I want to say this is the watercolor effect that people love. So that's why people love watercolor, or what it looks like. So I'm just filling this whole bottom in with just different leaves. I don't even think I know what kind of leaves I'm painting. I'm just filling it in, some stems, some grass, some leaves. And then I'm just letting that bleed naturally into the water part. So now I'm going to be adding some shadows. I'm doing kind of like a, not, how can I describe? Not like a perfectly blended shadow. I'm adding some lines to the shadows because, the mushrooms have those lines in the stems, kind of like the grooves in the stems, almost like you see in a tree trunk. And then, of course, I'm adding I'm going to call it the undercarriage of a mushroom, because I have no idea what the underside of a mushroom is called. I'm sure every part of a mushroom has a name, but I'm going to be adding these shadows into the little stems. And that's kind of what takes it away from looking like a cartoony mushroom and a little bit more realistic. So you're painting mushrooms and you're like, oh, how come they're coming out so like cartoony? Sometimes it's these little details that help. So a lot of shadowing underneath where I think the shadows would be going if the light was coming from overhead. I like adding a lot of shadows to my artwork. I like that contrast. It definitely helps with giving it that more realistic look. And I would say that's part of my style. So what do you guys, have you guys been painting long enough to know what your style is? I mean, I paint over 400 pieces a year. I've been doing watercolor since 2020. So we're approaching, over 2,000 pieces of art, I would say, that I've painted. Everything from the serious, home portrait or pet portrait to just miniature art. So I'm counting all of that, right? And I think I think the only thing I can really define my style as is contrast. I really do like the vivid and the contrasty colors. Other than that, I don't really know if I have a style. I feel like I recognize my artwork, but I don't know what that style is. I can't describe it. I don't think it's important to have or to recognize what your style is. Clearly, I'm doing this 2,000 paintings in, and I don't know what my style is. So if you're one of those people that's like, I don't know what my style is, I'm trying to find my style, I would say don't stress. Just let it go. It'll come to you if it does. And even if it doesn't come to you, that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I'm adding a little bit more of these shadows to also the bottom part, not underneath, but the bottom part of the mushroom. Adding this kind of just really brought it together for me. And then finalizing it with some shadows in the white spots to make it look three-dimensional. And that is pretty much it. This is intermediate level, but it is a shorter piece. So let me know what you think, and hope you enjoyed it.